We are halfway through the NFC West, which means we're only two previews away, including this one, from halftime. Not that we're going to take a big break or anything. It's the San Francisco 49ers today. Day 15 of 32 in our NFL team previews here on bet.nola.com, powered by the Datitude Podcast. I am Jim Derry. Way at boys and girls. One of my favorite teams that we're going to look at today. Not my favorite teams by any means. I've never liked the 49ers. That's a whole different story. But you put your personal feelings aside when you're talking about who you like as far as betting wise. We're not going to spend a lot of time on my monologue because I go into an in-depth talk about this team with our expert Adam Chernoff, who's coming up in a minute. But I want to put the numbers up on the screen, and you look at their over-under win total, it's at 10. And you're paying normal juice, the minus 110 on the over, minus 110 on the under. You look at last year, their over-under win total, 10.5. What did we predict? We predicted them to go 10-7. They went 10-7. Are they going to go 10-7 again? This year it would be a push if they went 10-7. Well, when you talk about this Niners team, here's the thing that worries me right off the bat. Trey Lance looks like he's taken over for Jimmy Garoppolo. I know there are a lot of 49ers fans out there that are thrilled about this. This is what they've wanted all along. They wanted Trey Lance to be the quarterback last year. Would it have made a difference? I don't know. I mean, you're a couple plays away from the Super Bowl, so it's hard to get down on Jimmy G too much, right? Of course, I didn't have any money invested in the Niners. I don't care about the Niners one way or another, so it didn't bother me any that they missed the Super Bowl. Besides, I had the Rams in the future, so I certainly wasn't upset about that NFC Championship game. So all that being said, how much does Trey Lance make a difference on this team? Well, I'm just not sure that any of us know. Does it affect on how we bet this team? Because if you really like this team, you go back to the numbers and look at it. Division title, plus 180. Conference title, plus 700. Super Bowl title, plus 1,600. There are values to be had there. Their offensive rank of 7th last year. Will it get worse? Well, it's only if Trey Lance doesn't do half the things that his coach Kyle Shanahan thinks he can do. Their defensive rank of 3rd, we know they're solid on defense. It was the strength of the team as good as their offense was. And speaking of their offense, Debo Samuel signs a long-term contract. Well, at least he's going to be there for the next 3 years, signing a deal that's going to guarantee him just about $20 million a year. And look, he did everything. Most people say that he's worth it. When you talk about some of the contracts that are going on in the NFL and you compare them to some of the other guys that are getting this kind of money, you got to say he is worth it, right? I mean, this offense kind of revolves around him. That's the good thing for Trey Lance is he'll be able to hand him the ball. He'll be able to throw him screen passes, throw him across the middle. You can have him go deep. Debo Samuel pretty much can do it all. And then you got Elijah Mitchell, who is kind of starting the season a little banged up again. Worries me a little bit. But Elijah Mitchell kind of came out of nowhere. The UL Raging Cajun kind of took the league by storm. And if you had him in fantasy football, and somebody I know did, oh, yeah, that was me. Helped me win a fantasy championship last year. Got him off the waiver wire after week 1. He's not going to be on the waiver wire this year. So this San Francisco offense, to me, I think can be at least as good, if not better. Trey Lance at quarterback, and you look at the defense and the things that they've been able to do. Are they going to be able to be that good again? I want to take a look at their schedule and before we get to our expert, because there are some spots tied for 5th toughest in the NFL. I don't know about that. The eye test doesn't, to me, tell me it's the 5th toughest schedule in the NFL, especially when I think you look at how this starts, and even though 2 of the first 3 games on the road, I think this is a 3-0 start. I think it's a slam. Not only do I think it's a slam dunk for a 3-0 start, if they're able to beat the Rams on Monday night, the Niners easily could be 6-0 going into that Kansas City game. And we keep going down the schedule, and it does get a little bit tougher. And you talk about Kansas City, the Rams, bye week, Chargers, playing Arizona and Mexico City, and then the Saints. But, Miami, Seattle, Washington, Arizona again, Vegas, a team they can beat. I'm going to tell you right now, there is more value on this over 10, excuse me. There's more value in this 10 because I think at worst, this team is a push at 10. at worst. I think there's massive value in the division title. I think there's good value in the conference title, and I'm going to be putting money on them to win the Super Bowl. To me, the San Francisco 49ers by season's end could be the best team in the NFC. In fact, maybe long before season's end. If Trey Lance does, again, half of what we think he can do, you could get a bunch of value on the 49ers. Bet them now. Numbers are only going down again. Let's see what our expert thinks. We're halfway through the NFC West, and when we're done with this one, we'll be moving into the fourth quarter. It's the San Francisco 49ers and Coach Kyle Shanahan and Adam Chernoff of Covers.com here to tell me whether I'm right, whether I'm wrong, whether he just thinks I'm a cuckoo bird. And
let's see what happens.
Maybe the latter when we talk about this one. Coach Kyle Shanahan, I am a fan. I will just say that. I think he has done some great things with this team. And you look at their rankings from last year, offensive rank of 7th, defensive rank of 3rd, and they were just a little smidge away from going to the Super Bowl last year, which would have been a huge surprise to a lot of people. Now, you go into the season, as we talk right now, it is expected that Trey Lance will be the quarterback, so he proves to be a major unknown. But when you look at the over-under win total of 10 and some other numbers to me that I really like, this is the one team in the division that I have a strong opinion on. I think the 49ers are a Super Bowl candidate. I think they're going over, and I think that there's a chance that they win 12 or 13 games, even though they have the 5th toughest schedule in the NFL. To me, this is one of the teams that I don't want to play if I'm in the NFC.
We got agreement. Maybe not on the Super Bowl part, but almost all of the way there. Within the division, it's by far the easiest schedule of opponents. All the other 3 teams really got it difficult. The Niners just lucked out with how that schedule broke down. But the big thing here is Trey Lance. Let's not go around it. The ceiling with Lance, or how good this team could be, was or is much, much higher than it is with Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, Garoppolo had a limit. It was like, here's how far you're getting. And admittedly, that was a Super Bowl appearance against the Chiefs. And it was a deep run last year. He dominated the middle of the field. But I think that what Lance tends to sort of unlock with that mobility and how creative Shanahan can get the best play caller in the NFL is going to be really, really difficult for opponents to sort of defend. But it's also a bit of a restart too, right? Because we sort of, in many ways, as good as it has been, defenses kind of know what's coming. It's incredibly difficult to stop. Now there's that element of uncertainty and unknown. And Debo Samuel signed just the other day, so he's locked in for the season. This is as good of a receiver room as you're going to find in the NFL. It's as good of a front 7 for generating pressure on opponents. It's as good of a play caller as there is. And if you can add some uncertainty at quarterback that raises that ceiling, really good team and a really good bet.
One of our regulars on the show, and he's kind of helped out, he's a good friend of mine, Uncle Big Nick, is a huge 49ers fan, and he's been complaining about Jimmy G for 2 years. So does it scare you at all going to do you think it's the right move? I mean, to me, with Jimmy G, you have an established quarterback. You know what you're getting. It was clear to me, though, that Shanahan wanted to start Trey Lance last year and wanted to get away from Jimmy G last year, and something behind the scenes basically forced him to use Garoppolo. This year, he's given the reins to do whatever he wants to do. It looks like Trey Lance is going to be the quarterback. Is that something that you think makes this team better, or is there fluctuation further apart now? I mean, it's a team maybe that could win 12 or 13 games, but maybe it's a team that also could win 8 or 9.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you want from a betting perspective. You don't want a lot of certainty around that outcome. So the wider range, like you mentioned, is a really good thing to find as a bettor. And it's just an evaluation of what you think. And for me, I think it opens up a lot more upside. I don't know if you were going to get that massive standout season from Garoppolo after what we've seen from him in the last 5 or 6 seasons. I think it's so limited. And with Lance, I mean, it's fun to think about how good this offense could be under Shanahan. So I really like that variance is added, especially at the quarterback position. I think the Niners are a great bet.
Already and lastly about the Niners, and I'm expanding on this because this is one that I think you and I both see some value on here. So we're telling you guys, if you're watching this, we're telling you to go make some plays on the Niners here. Although Debo Samuel is signed, you have to worry about some of the injuries that they have already. And I loved what Elijah Mitchell was able to do. He's a Louisiana guy, but already some injuries back there. He had some injuries last year. This team has injuries elsewhere. Does that scare you at all?
They've been injured almost every season for the last, I believe it's 4 years. They've been top 10 in games lost due to injury, and they've been able to overcome it. And so in the betting world, that's something you tend to look at and say, well, when's the season coming where they're healthy? Injuries are quite random. There seems to be a sort of prolonged issue in San Francisco with the medical staff or conditioning or whatever it might be. It's weird how it happens year after year, but they're just so good at overcoming it. So it's an interesting two-sided debate to that one. Very, very difficult to predict, but as it stands right now, I like a lot about the Niners.
All right. I know you say you don't like a lot of double-digit totals. You pretty much stay away from, and I know you're more of a look ahead week to week, but this is one that you would take. You think you would take a 10?
Well, I would much rather prefer division futures. I would prefer NFC conference futures than the win total. That would be sort of the third or fourth bet I would look to make. But there's also now you can find a lot of the sports books in Louisiana have odds to make the playoffs, all sorts of prop bets around season performance. That's much more where I'm looking. So I would say take an eye at those before you get into the win totals, which are more or less settled at the moment.
Division title plus 180. I also like it. I actually agree with Adam. That's probably a better bet than taking the over 10. And I think they have a very good chance of doing that. Tomorrow, we're going to wrap up the week with what a letdown, the Seattle Seahawks. We'll talk to you then.